It was a raucous end to the Minnesota legislative session as Democratic leaders worked to push through bills in the final hours.
The DFL was still unable to pass everything they wanted this year. John Croman is at the Capitol with what was left on the cutting room floor. John?
Well, Public Works construction bonding bill, the Equal Rights Amendment, sports betting, all fell by the wayside here in the final weekend. But most of the attention now is on how it all ended and what it says about whether Republicans and Democrats can ever work together again.
Madam Speaker, Democrat or Republican should ever. Madam Speaker.
It started in the House and then moved to the Senate. Republican outrage over a last-minute maneuver by Democrats to cut off debate and pass a tax bill that, in the final hour, had been expanded to include other budget bills and the straw purchasers and Uber Lyft. Some sat in solemn, prayerful silence while others yelled as long and hard as they could.
It is a full Democrat responsibility of what just happened in this state.
Is that the House do now adjourn? All those in favor?
House Speaker Melissa Hortman said the extraordinary measures became necessary because Republicans had staged dozens of long filibusters in the final weeks to run out the clock.
We gave them every opportunity to work with us in a reasonable bipartisan way, and instead what they did was obstruct the work of the legislature, and that just cannot be permitted.
And they have abused not only us in the Senate and also in the House, but Minnesotans.
Senate Republicans continue to make an issue of DFL Senator and accused burglar Nicole Mitchell being part of the action.
And by the way, they used an alleged felon to pass these bills. The number 34 vote in a number of the controversial bills that came through this year.
Governor Walz said it became clear to him in negotiations over the bonding bill that things would get rough at the end.
One of the things to get a bonding bill done was that we would agree to drop all requirements for vaccinations amongst children attending daycare. That is insanity.
Full Democrat majority in the state of Minnesota has had 2 full years to get their work done. So we are not taking that as the responsibility or the delay by Republicans.
Governor Walz said there are still things to celebrate about this session: the EMS bill, the copper wire theft crackdown, straw purchasers, Uber Lyft, all that stuff that did actually make it to the finish line. As far as the other stuff, he says it's a process and maybe they can take it up next year depending on who's in charge next year. And that, of course, remains to be seen because there's a huge election coming up in November. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, John. Well, much more, by the way, coming up on this story at 10 as well. Also at the Capitol, one of the most talked about bills of the legislative session did make it through.
The legislature passed a bill that sets a minimum pay standard for rideshare drivers, and both Uber and Lyft say they will stay in Minnesota as a result. The measure is now headed to Governor Walz, who has promised to sign it. It will go into effect on January 1st, with drivers getting paid a minimum rate of $1.28 per mile and 31 cents per minute. The bill overrides the ordinance passed by the Minneapolis City Council, which originally prompted Uber and Lyft to say they would pull out of the Twin Cities.